Welcome to Justice, a lawyer's hangout, where we dissect legal issues and educate the public on the law. I am Chizaram Lilian Oyike, and here with me today are my colleagues, Mr. Ebenezer Amadi and Munirat Adama. Welcome and thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure being here with you. Thank you, Barb.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On today's episode, we'll be discussing the rule of law in Nigeria, power, rights, and accountability, from the misuse of public office to the denial of fundamental human rights and the failure of institutions to hold violators accountable. The rule of law in Nigeria remains under pressure, yet it also holds promise if enforced and respected. Now, let's dive into it. So, Barrister Amadi, I'm going to start with you. Why is the rule of law critical for national development and public trust, especially in countries battling corruption and insecurity?
Well, thank you very much for the question. Rule of law is very vital for every democratic government. And because we need to understand that, first of all, the rule of law, what it means. Rule of law means governance according to the law. It means equality before the law.
Yes.
So what it encompasses is that nobody is above the law and governance is done based on the law, provisions of the law. And when you look at the section 1 of the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria, it made provision for supremacy of the Constitution. So it is very important because it gives political stability in the country. So when there is no rule of law, there will be no political instability, which is what leads to a lot of issues, such as we have seen military taking over, a coup happening. We've seen a lot of protests because people think the right things are not done. For instance, when you see agitations from different parts of the country, as a result of what people feel they are not being treated equally, or maybe their rights are being abused. So yes, so rule of law is very vital. It brings political stability, and when there's political stability, it attracts development, it attracts a lot of good things, growth, economic growth, it attracts investors, and a lot of good things.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Madi, for your input. I also agree with you when you say in everything you talked about the rule of law. The rule of law also provides a stable environment, like you mentioned, for also investments and people's businesses, and for good governance. Thank you so much for that input. So, Minat, I'm going to bring you in here.
Right.
What does the rule of law truly mean in the Nigerian context, and how does it shape the relationship between the government and the people that are being governed?
Thank you very much, Zaram. Basically, the rule of law is laws that have been put together to bind the people. It's a way where the government will not overuse their power at the detriment of the citizen. So rule of law is check and balance for the government, between the government and the people.
Yes.
Right? So how it's being operated in Nigeria, theoretically, we're good. We have laws like the Constitution and the rest that's put in place. But practically, we have seen time without numbers where the government thwarts the rule of law and nothing has been done up to this moment.
So I think what you just mentioned, I read a story in the This Day newspaper where Femi Falana was making a statement. I think he made a statement during MBA conference where he said that the government also is one of the people that are also thwarting, like you mentioned, the rule of law in the country. Yes.
In fact, the reason rule of law must exist in govern every country or every citizen and the government is for check and balances, meaning that these people that are ruling are actually human beings, and there's possibility for them to go overboard because human beings human beings can easily get power drunk, right? So now, rule of law has come to say, be in check for you to be able to govern these people,
set of people.
properly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in Nigeria, of course, like you asked in your question, it's not been, rule of law is not being followed to the letter. So you see the government official not following the rule of law and with blatant disregard.
Because they feel that they are above the law. Yes. So, Mr. Ahmed, I'm going to bring you in here. So, because the government feels like they are above the rule of law, how can everyday Nigerians identify when the rule of law is being violated, and what actions can they take to resist or report these violations?
Okay, there are various ways Nigerian citizens can identify when the rule of law is being violated.
Yes.
For instance, number one is when there is a disobedience of a court order. You will know that the rule of law has been violated. When there is a court order, it is meant to be obeyed. We have seen a situation in Nigeria where, especially law enforcement agencies, disobey court order.
Yeah.
For I've seen a situation in the case I've handled where a court grants bail and the police refuse to release the person on bail. Let's take, for instance, the case of Speed Darlington of recent. The court made an order for this person to be granted bail within a specific, I think, 24 hours, or be arraigned in court, but it was not done. So these are the issues that when we see them, you know that the rule of law has been violated. Another instance is a situation where fundamental human rights are not being respected.
Yes.
Where there is a violation of fundamental human rights. For instance, where you arrest someone without informing the person the reason of the arrest. It is a violation of the rule of law, because rule of law encompasses of a lot of principles. It has to do with supremacy of the Constitution. It has to do with accountability in governance. It has to do with independence of the judiciary.
Yes.
It has to do with equality before the law. It has to do with separation of power and checks and balances. So rule of law is not just about equality. There are other principles that must be followed. So when a fundamental human right is not obeyed, there is a violation of human rights, of the rule of law.
Thank you very much. Now, Ms. Munira, talking about, he mentioned the independence of judiciary.
Exactly.
Now, how can the judiciary maintain its independence and enforce the rule of law in the face of political pressure and institutional compromise?
Taking it from where Mr. Amadi left it.
Yes, please.
We must know that judicial independence is the backbone of any society that is governed by the rule of law. Judiciary is more like the string that holds it all when it comes to rule of law. But however, in Nigeria, judiciary faces deep-rooted issues. Yeah. Number one, let's talk about something very important that might still keep the judiciary rooted to the executive, and that is budgetary. The judiciary budgetary is being controlled by the executive. How can they be independent when your finances is being controlled by someone else? They say he who pays the piper detects the tune. That's what is going on in the Nigerian rule of law, especially through the judiciary. We have political motivated appointments. I have to become and behave in certain ways so that I can be appointed in any judicial position. And we have delay in justice. Delay in justice. Sometimes you hear someone tell you categorically that there's no need, because the time I'll go and spend in courts for me to get, no. You get things like this are the reasons. And if some of the solutions, if judiciary could get their financial autonomy, the annual pay. I think there's a recent judgment, Mr. Madi, I don't know, between the Judicial Staff Union of Nigeria and the National Judicial Council, where the ruling said that the judiciary should have autonomy of their finances, but there's no implementation, like you said. blatant disregard of the court orders. You even, I don't want to mention some institute, armed securities, yes, security agencies. The court will give order for this to happen or for that to happen. They will just disregard it. We have transparent appointments. The National Judicial Council should appoint people with uprightness and people who understand the importance of being in the judiciary. And of course, lastly, the judiciary should be able to professionally dispense judgment without fear and with courage. With this, I think the judiciary will be able to help in terms of...
Thank you, Ms. Nigeria. Thank you, Ms. Munira, for that comment. To add to what you've said, I believe other ways where the judiciary can maintain independence is also by way of strong judicial unions and oversight bodies. And I also believe in continuous legal education and ethical trainings. Also, thank you, you both, for being here. Let's take a short break, and when we return, we'll be wrapping this conversation with some final thoughts. Thank you.
As a people and members of LJE Green Community, we share a deeper commitment to protect not only our environment, but also the rights and dignity of all individuals within our reach. Every day, we are faced with responsibility to uphold human dignity. If you see something happening around you, do not turn blind eye. We must act because that's where our role as ambassadors come in. Being an ambassador doesn't require any superpower. It requires awareness, compassion, and the willingness to speak up. If you see something, say something. It's our duty to stand up for justice and amplify the voices of those who can't speak for themselves. One voice can spark a movement, and together we can create a nation that values human life. You can reach us on 070-5236-8821 or visit our website at www.ljenigeria.org to report a violation. Remember, if you see something, say something.
Welcome back to this episode. To round off this conversation, I'm going to begin with you, Mr. Amadi. What role does the rule of law, law enforcement agencies and security forces play in strengthening or undermining the rule of law in Nigeria?
Yes, the security agencies and law enforcement agencies, they have a huge role
To play.
in strengthening the rule of law. And they also play a role in undermining the rule of law. For instance, these law enforcement agencies, they have the responsibility of investigating and prosecuting offenders. So if they don't abide by the rule of law, if they don't follow the due process in prosecution, it means they are undermining the rule of law. For instance, we have seen a situation where people are remanded in prison. They are arrested and remanded in prison custody without being informed in clear terms of the crime they have committed.
Yes.
This is against the provision of the Constitution. When you look at Section 36 of the Constitution of the Republic of Nigeria, that made provision for right to fair hearing. You also look at Section 35, where makes provision for the right to liberty. You don't have the right to arrest someone beyond 24 hours. That's what the law says. If it is beyond 24 hours, you are violating the person's fundamental human right. Unless where the radius is, there's no court close by 48 hours. But we have seen a situation in Nigeria where people are being remanded in police station for months. So law enforcement agencies, they have a huge role to play in performing their duties, in protecting the fundamental human rights of citizens.
Yes.
They should do that. And also in terms of enforcement of court judgments, enforcement of court orders, the law enforcement agencies, they need to also comply with the directives of the courts. Whenever there is an order of the court, they should do that. They should obey it. And when these things are done properly, you will see there will be rule of law. Rule of law will be protected. But a situation where there is a flagrant abuse and disobedience of court orders and disregard of human rights, especially by the police. I've seen a situation where in civil disputes, civil, not criminal disputes, the police take it all because the person involved is wealthy, and you see them arresting an innocent person over simple civil cases, maybe because of debt dispute, debt recovery, or even tenancy matters. We have seen it play out. So when there is a disregard of the provisions of law by the law enforcement agencies, it is deterrent to the rule of law in our society. So they have a role to play in ensuring political stability in Nigeria, and also in ensuring that fundamental human rights of citizens
are being
protected.
protected. Thank you so much, Mr. Madi. So, Ms. Monarat, to what extent are citizens' fundamental rights protected under the Nigerian legal system? And where does the rule of law break down in practice?
Basically everything Mr. Madi has just mentioned.
Yes.
And the truth is, Chizera, the Nigerian legal system has provided adequately for fundamental human rights of their citizens. Take example, Chapter 4 of the Constitution, and the other laws, the VAP Acts, and the rest. We are not saying that the Constitution, the legal system has not provided for the fundamental human rights, but the problem is the implementation of this laws that have been provided. Like Mr. Madi rightly mentioned earlier, significant problems that pose as an issue for these laws that have been provided. We have arbitrary arrests, like he mentioned, unlawful detention, like a civil matter. For example, debt recovery. I've practically gone to the police station before to make sure my client is not detained for debt. Torture by security operations, where you see a security man will lay you for whatsoever reason, slapping a citizen on the road.
And beating up a citizen.
Did you know?
Yes.
And I promise you, nothing is being done.
Yes.
They will tell you, I will slap you and nothing will happen. This is the blatant disregard of the rule of law that we're talking about. We have disobedience to court orders, and ordinary citizens do not have the capacity to access affordable legal representation. These are parts of the problems, and that are posing as issues. And that is being provided for, but implementations is very low.
Something else. Yes. So, by somebody, what are the damages of selective justice or executive lawlessness, and how can legal professionals fight against it while upholding democratic values?
Okay. First of all, let me start with the damages of selective justice or executive lawlessness. Number one is that it causes political instability in the country. For instance, you see in the country right now, we have a lot of issues in every part of the country. We have security concerns concerning enhancement issues, bandits in Sokoto and Niger State. We have in the east, we have the indigenous people of here protesting. What are they protesting? They are asking for their rights. They feel they have been marginalized. Some people feel the government are not doing enough to protect their rights and to also give them the dividends of democracy. So whenever there is executive lawlessness or selective justice, it brings insecurity, it brings political instability, and also it creates a bad image of the country. When you go outside the country and you see a lot of people, when you mention Nigeria, they have that picture, a country where human rights are not abused, are not protected. For instance, when the issue of NSAS protest happened and the military came and took over, there was a lot of fundamental human rights abuse. So it creates a bad image for the country. So on the other hand, what can lawyers do? Lawyers, we have a very huge role to play in ensuring rule of law, because one, all these the executives and both the executive, legislature, judiciary, they all function with lawyers in one way or the other.
Yeah.
We have lawyers that advise executive. The attorney general is a lawyer, and it's the attorney general that gives legal advice to the president. Whether it's the attorney general of the state or attorney general of the government, the attorney general of the state gives legal advice to the states. White House of the Federation gives legal advice to the president.
Yeah.
And as the attorney general, the attorney general has enormous power as provided in section 174 of the Constitution and section that's 211 of the Constitution. That's for the AG of the state, which includes the right to prosecute, to discontinue, all those things. We have seen a situation whereby some politicians, the AG withdraws their charges because they have joined the ruling party.
The ruling party.
The ruling party, you see. So the point is that we as lawyers, we have a major role to play. We have the role to play in defending the rights of citizens. We have seen lawyers that takes up cases pro bono, free of charge for people. I have done that representing people that don't have money. It's not every time that that a lawyer asks for money. We have the legal aid also that gives legal representation. So lawyers have a huge role to play, and for me, I will always advise for Nigerian citizens to understand that their rights can be protected and enforced in courts. Like today, I just received the call on a case I was handling. A client, his account was unlawfully restricted by the bank without a court order. So when I took over the case and we sued them, immediately we sued them, they removed the restriction. So for any person that is out there, know that your rights can be enforced.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ms. Murat has just mentioned the roles that legal practitioners have to play. Now, what practical steps can be taken by civil society, media, and youth to promote the rule of law in Nigeria?
Thank you, Chizaram. This trio you just mentioned, civil society, the media, and the youth, they represent the conscience, the voice, and the energy of every society.
Yes.
Right? For the civil society, they could monitor legislative and executive actions, right? In terms of maybe, for example, the NDA lawyers, they could actually sue the government publicly, not because it affects only them, on behalf of the citizens, monitor their affairs. This is budgetary. There's an episode we had one time, we're talking about, you have the right to ask for any information you want, from any ministry you want, and they are mandated to reply to your letter timelessly. Yes, 7 days. But guess what? We have submitted the letter asking for information from one ministry now, which I will not mention their name. And this is almost 3 months, no response. We have gone there orally and we have gone there by letters. These are what we are talking about.
Yes.
About the blatant disregard of the rule of law. So things like this, we should still pick it up. There's another agency, we have been writing to them countless times. No reply whatsoever. A very important agency that is supposed to be this is supposed to communicate between the government and the citizen. Even as a civil society, they are not responding. But we still have the obligation and the duty to keep escalating this issue until the rule of law is followed to the letter. We have the media, and of course, like I like to call them, the fourth estates. We have, of course, the judiciary, the executive, the legislative. The press is the fourth estate, meaning the press has the power to make or to mar. Meaning that the press should not be afraid. They should be courageous enough to call out the failures of this of the government, especially where they disregard the rule of law. And of course, the youth, we represent 60% of our population. How can the few elites overshadow us? Meaning we should keep fighting. We should not relent. And we should know this is a matter of duty for us to be involved in the rule of law, be involved in legislation, be involved in what the executive is doing, and not just like, oh, okay. Like, so
Just rely.
I saw a post of,
There is no law in Nigeria.
funny enough, I saw a post of my colleague, which I somehow agree. But this program, even I am part of the program, I'm learning. It's teaching me to like, okay, he said the next election, if you like, people should compile it. If you like, people should not compile it. It's none of my business. I think an average youth should not have that mindset. It is our business. And we should keep looking at the coalition, whether they rig it or not, we will keep fighting, checkmating, and make sure that check and balance and the rule of law is being followed to the
And
next.
upheld,
Thank you, Chizara.
Thank you so much, Mr. Madi and Ms. Munira, for being here. Thank you so much. Clearly, the rule of law is more than just a legal concept. It's a fairness, equality, and stability in any society in Nigeria. The fight for the rule of law is also the fight against impunity, corruption, and injustice. Join us next time on Justice, a Lawyer's Hangout, and follow us on our social media handles as LJE Nigeria. Until then, bye.